The following segment comes from a full SEC preview episode from Running Out the Clock. If you like what you hear in this segment, then be sure and subscribe to the channel so that you can catch all of our SEC previews, including whether or not we think the teams discussed in these previews will do better, worse, or the same this season. Roe Hunter, give us a little bit of a briefing about the LSU Tigers, finishing the season ranked 18th in the country, off of a 6-2 conference performance, 9-4 overall. This is after, of course, getting rid of an offensive coordinator, trying to establish some sort of offense that works, living in the shadow of Leonard Fournette. Darius Geis comes out and has a good season. Ro, what are they looking at this year, though?
Well, first of all,
Yep.
Second of all, and to
yeah,
that
we're sure on in the studio.
I, of course,
An
am
ac-
making fun of and
Oh.
accurately talking exactly like the head football coach of the LSU Tigers. That would be Mr. Ed Orgeron. It really sucks for LSU yet again this year when Alabama and Georgia are going to be playing for the national title, and Auburn will also be playing for the SEC
national title.
For the national title as well.
3-team national title this year.
A
guys.
3-team national title. Being fourth in the conference kind of sucks, and that's kind of where LSU is. You throw in the energy of turnover changes and coaches. You have a new Florida, a better Mississippi State, consistently awful Arkansas, and a mediocre Texas A&M, and a dumpster fire at Tennessee. All right, every single one of these teams, I'm going to predict that are going to not just beat LSU this year. It's just not going to be good. It's going to be very badly for LSU this year. And why? Why do I say this? Well, if any LSU fans are in our group, which there are none, please name a sure thing skill position as your starter. You have two guys really that are returning. One of the guys' names is Greedy Williams, which I think is probably my favorite name in all of college football.
Solid name.
The other guy is Devin White. Has anyone ever heard of these two people?
Yes, I've heard of Devin White.
Well, then you win the prize because I have no idea who they are. But they're the guys who are leading this team. And
He's
then Ed Orgeron is your coach, okay? He is your national championship level head coach. I'll just let that sit in because it feels as though LSU is a decade removed from when they were competing for the national championship every year. They are slowly but surely becoming the Tennessee of the West. That's my big hot take for LSU. Yeah, it's not good. It's really not good. And unfortunately, they have a miserable schedule this year. But it doesn't make sense because they have all these great teams coming in at home, but their road schedule is tough, and the teams that they have playing at home are going to destroy them. I don't even think the games will be close, even though it's in Death Valley and all that kind of stuff. And I'll get to that in a second. But let's look at the team. Let's kind of break down the offense first. We'll start with the offense, then move to the defense. All right. Offense, you're losing the gunslinger Danny Etling to maybe the Canadian Football League. Maybe he's there. I don't know what happened to that guy. I didn't even bother looking.
Wide receiver for the Patriots now.
So is he really? Are you being for real?
I'm going to look that up, but
please do. That's indicative of the LSU offense, though. I think, right? They have a ton of talent.
He's just a quarterback with the Patriots, but he is with the Patriots.
Oh, man, I was hoping he'd be a wide receiver.
Well, if you're a white dude on the Patriots, you're whatever position / wide receiver.
I think I saw something where he showed up to rookie camp wearing number 88 or something like that. Like it was something he was wearing a receiver number or something weird like that.
Okay.
Yeah. They're counting on Joe Burrow, who is Ohio State graduate transfer coming in. He's 6'3", 214 pounds, and he was a big-time recruit for them, but he also was like the third stringer for Ohio State, if that tells you kind of where this guy's at. So One thing that we all know true of LSU in general is that they develop quarterbacks well. Think of the Jamarcus Russells. Think of the Zach Mettenbergers. Oh, did I already mention Danny Etling? I'll mention him again. Gunslinger Etling, playing for the Patriots. No, Joe Burrow's supposed to be coming in. He's going to be going all challenging the other three guys on the roster who it's pointless to mention their names. He's going to be the starter. I'm dead serious. He's going to be the starter. It's kind of a known
You think
fact.
so, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's got the buzz around him. He's that recruit kind of guy who comes in and he's going to be the savior. All this kind of stuff. And unfortunately, the receivers they lose a couple of guys to the NFL and DJ Clark and Russell, who were their Russell Gage, who were their top receivers. But they get the Texas Tech transfer. I think his name is Jonathan Giles.
Jay Giles of Jay Giles Band.
That's right. But they also have big time 5-star recruits as usual. I think his name is Terrace Marshall. He's 6'4". He's huge. He's a big frame guy. They got a couple of good tight ends, a veteran in Foster Moreau who's coming back in, and he last year had 24 grabs and 3 scores, so he'll be another factor as well. But how do you go and replace the incredible backfield that was Darius Guice from last year and then Leonard Fournette before that as well? They have a 5'8", 200-pound fast back in Clyde Edwards, who's apparently pretty good. And then they also have Nick Brissett. He'll bring power in the rotation. They'll kind of do that rotation that we've seen in the last few years. But there's other guys, too, that, of course, they have all these great skill guys and all this big talent. But we'll see. Who knows? I mean, those are two very big backs they have to replace this year. Obviously, LSU always has a big offensive line. They're always talented all the way around, and they have these great recruits. But it's going to be another rebuilding year as well. Moving on the defense, LSU is always stacked on defense. They're always good, and Dave Aranda did a solid job last year, but it wasn't quite that solid rock D or whatever in 2016. But they're not going to be complaining too much from last year. They were averaging 316 yards a game, 19 points per game they're allowing, so it's not a big deal. But they lose key guys. They lose Christian I can't say this guy's last name, Christian Lecoq or something like that. And then Greg Gilmore off the defensive front, and they lose some key secondary guys as well as some linebackers also. So what's that we keep saying every single team? There's a lot of question marks. A lot of question marks all over the roster. Who's going to step up? Who's going to be that guy? Well, it's going to be a struggle to find that guy. They have Devin White, who's coming back. I mentioned him earlier. He's a established linebacker, 133 tackles last year and tone setter for the D, all that kind of stuff. Hopefully he'll have a good season as well. He'll be kind of the anchor of that entire defense. The secondary isn't bad. Like I said, they have some missing parts in the pass defense. However, they also have my other boy Greedy, my favorite player. Look out this year, best name, old Greedy Williams. They're going to have to really lock down the front. They allowed 200 yards on the ground last season, just under that. They're going to have to lock that down if they're going to be successful. My prediction of kind of like who's going to be the star player for LSU this year, I'm going to say Jonathan Giles Jr., the Texas Tech receiver. He was pretty good at Texas Tech. I mean, he had 1,000 yards, 69 grabs. However, it's a different offense. We'll see how they utilize him. Apparently, he's very good. If you're grabbing 69 grabs and 1,100 yards in a season, I mean, you're a solid guy. But again,
it is Texas Tech's offense where any of us would probably get 34 catches in one season. So,
yeah. And then the co-MVP of LSU is going to be the quarterback Joe Burrow. I said Joe Morrow. R.I.P. The star recruit for Ohio State. He didn't want to sit behind Dwayne Haskins. He wanted to go to a bigger program. There's a lot of drama with that. Obviously, lots of drama happening with Ohio State. Not saying that that's going to affect this guy. Obviously, he's here now. I don't see him being like this incredible I don't know, lightning rod for their offense. I don't see it. A lot of the people on the message boards, as well as Powell was talking about him as well. He's going to be a big factor for them. I don't know. I just don't buy into LSU offense. It seems so backwards nowadays saying that with a quarterback who's going to be good at LSU. They're going to be good on the ground as usual, but I don't see them having this incredible offense. He's, Ed Ogeron, he was going to come in there and he's going to do the West Coast thing, and it's going to be his offense. He's going to revamp the whole thing and promise all this exciting. And now this is year number 3, and they are abysmal. And they have been abysmal. The running game has saved them, and their incredible offensive line saved them the last couple of years, but not good. So I'm going to guess, looking at their schedule, they will probably lose at least 2 of these 4 road games. So Auburn, Florida, Arkansas, and Texas A&M. I don't know which one. They're going to lose 2 of those. They're going to lose to Miami. They're going to lose to Georgia. They're going to lose to Alabama. They're probably going to lose to Louisiana Tech. I could see that as well. I think they're also going to lose to Ole Miss, and I also think they're going to lose to State. So, this potentially could be a 3 or 4 win season for LSU. That's my bold prediction. It's not going to be good. I don't think that it's going to be another rebuilding year yet again to get to that national championship level that they so desperately crave, but so far removed from, and back into the dumpster fire that is in Tennessee, but in the West.
So this is my quick follow-up question, because you're kind of saying it. When you say you're comparing them to Tennessee, you're trying to insinuate that both of these programs are going to take a long time before they are successful programs again. You're saying that for LSU?
100%. Yeah.
Right.
They lots of talent, but not enough time.
All right, I'm going to turn this over to Chandler. He's been licking his chompers for weeks now for the opportunity to talk about LSU. God only knows what's about to happen here. Chandler, just take it away. Give us your opinions. I know you have opinions here to share.
Let's just say that a guy who failed miserably at Ole Miss is the head coach at LSU. Ed Ogeron's career has just been I don't know if you've ever seen the gif of the guy falling up the escalator. He's steps on, he falls backwards and he keeps tumbling down, but the escalator is just bringing him higher and higher. That's Ed Ogeron's career. He keeps failing and he keeps somehow getting better and better jobs. I mean, he was the defensive line coach at USC and was this viewed as this great recruiter, this great defensive line coach, this great hype man, just getting the guys fired up, ready to go. He comes into Ole Miss, 3 just abysmal years there. It never got better. I mean, you talk to guys who played for him, and it just was absolute insanity. I think he might have gone to the Saints for a year, and then he hitched his wagon to Lane Kiffin. Then ends up at Tennessee for a year, and then goes to USC for a couple of years, and then Lane Kiffin fails, so he gets that head coaching job for half a season, and then ends up at LSU, and now all of a sudden he's the head coach at LSU. There's nothing in this guy's career that says he is the guy that you want to have to build a program.
Nothing. Nothing at all.
I mean, I haven't seen anything.
Not the fact that he won 9 games last year, and not the fact that he stopped a USC ship that was sinking very rapidly in his interim position.
He's done fine as an interim, and I do think there's something to be said about holding it together last year. I mean, they started off the year really bad. They lost to Troy. They got housed by Mississippi State, and excuse me.
Did you get choked up about that?
I did. I got really choked up thinking about the good old days with Ed Ogeron. I mean, he hasn't shown yet that he can really sustain a program, and he we heard a lot about last year coming in how he's changed and he's this more level-headed guy. And to be fair, it does seem like, at least with his off the field life, he does seem like he's kind of gotten some things, some priorities in order, which is great. Always like to see a guy do well off the field, but I mean, he immediately early in the season starts to tamper with the offense, which he said he wouldn't do. He did. They get rid of their offensive coordinator midseason. They bring in a new guy who nobody's excited about. He has fought to keep Dave Aranda so far, which I think is a great move. I think Dave Aranda is a superstar defensive coordinator. But I think the Joe Burrow situation is one that that tells a lot more about the team than you would think. I mean, they had 3 guys on the roster. They had Miles Brennan, who's from South Mississippi. They had Loel Narcisse, which is like the most LSU name ever. And then there was a third guy. I can't remember his name, but you're looking at these guys. Narcisse is a highly rated recruit. Brennan is a highly rated recruit. And you look at these guys, you have a year watching them, and you go and you bring in Joe Burrow. So that's not exactly a vote of confidence for those other quarterbacks. And even if Joe Burrow is good, which he's obviously a talented guy, even if Joe Burrow is good, a junior college quarterback is going to take – I mean, not a junior college, a transfer quarterback is going to take some time to get adjusted. I mean, look at Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham early in the season last year for Auburn was not great. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't great. He went out there winning games. And then he got a lot better. You know, the rest of the team was carrying him. Then he goes out and gets a lot better. Well, you're breaking in a transfer, and his first several games are going to be Miami, at Auburn. You got Louisiana Tech, which LSU probably wins that game, but it's got the potential to get weird. Then Ole Miss, which also could get weird. Then he goes to Florida. I mean, you're in the first week of October, and you're looking at maybe. I mean, you could have already lost 4 games at that point. So it's just, I don't know. It's hard to see how this really works out. And if they get off to a slow start, it could end really, really badly, because you know how these things a lot of times can compound. You get a bad start, and you lose confidence in your starting quarterback, something like that, and then all of a sudden you're 2-4, maybe 3-3, something like that, and you've still got some of your bigger name teams to play, like Mississippi State, Georgia, Alabama.
Their schedule is brutal, man. It is terrible.
It's gonna be rough. And so I think the other thing about this is that it's so heavily Ed Ogeron is so heavily tied to Tom Herman at Texas and to LSU's athletics director, because they could have had Tom Herman and also Jimbo Fisher. So say Texas A&M and Texas get off to good starts, LSU struggling, that fan base is going to be furious. I mean, it's got the potential to be pretty bad. Now, I'm not necessarily worried about the talent, because it seems like LSU always is going to have the talent there.
They're always going to pull in everyone from the state of Louisiana who can play, at every time.
Which again, I mean, Ro, you mentioned Devin White pretty heavily. I mean, that was another one of Hugh Freeze's big failures, was going all in on Devin White when everyone knew Devin White was going to LSU. Everybody knew it. I mean, it was just but and there you go. I tied to Ole Miss for you right there. But
there it is.
There's great defensive talent, but I just think the experience on offense combined with the really, really hard schedule early, I think that's going to be a death knell for them. Because if they slip up at all, early,
they can't have any mistakes this season. Yeah. This team is going to be so riddled with mistakes, though.
And let's say best case for LSU in the first 6 games is 4-2.
Yeah,
that's absolute best case. So I don't know. That's got the potential to get real weird pretty quickly.
It does. I mean, this is a rough year for all the reasons that Ro has mentioned and that we've elaborated on. In particular, just so much personnel loss. There's so many gaps to fill, and then just the absolutely terrible schedule, just in general. But I don't know of too many people. I've been constantly amazed by how many like national publications want to try to give them like a 9-win season this year.
It's ridiculous.
It makes
unreal. It doesn't make any sense.
I think that they were entirely deserving of ending the last season with a top 25 ranking because of the the upsets they pulled off and the way that they redeemed the season. Well, I say redeemed the season. I mean they never really had like consecutive losses. I don't think. Anyway, but all that being said, it's a rough one. Keith, you're looking ahead. This year will be whatever it is. But you're looking ahead, and you've got a guy who does still have the reputation for recruiting and does still have the entire Louisiana, pipeline just at his disposal. You look at this going into next year. Are you seeing this as a, barren situation?
So 2 things I want to add before I jump into that question. Firstly, I wouldn't be too quick to let the LSU fan base dictate how the program moves on Orgeron early. This is the same fan base that, for some reason, hated, and suddenly his name is completely escaping me.
Les Miles?
Les Miles, the guy that I really, really like. They hated him, and he was constantly winning 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 games a year. Like he was the definition of success there coming after Saban. And they called for his head every year for the last 3 years of his career there. Secondly, Orgeron strikes me as a guy that went to Ole Miss and clearly wasn't ready to be a head coach. And so he takes all these coordinator and position jobs as a way to kind of build back up his resume to learn, and he paid his dues. And he did a fantastic job out at USC after that Kiffin plane crashed and burned. And then the same thing last year at LSU. Can he build a program? We have no idea.
Right.
He failed at Ole Miss, but he hasn't really had a chance to do it again. No. And if he's changed as much as everyone said he is or has, then why not give him a chance? Because he came in, absolutely salvaged last season.
Right. And
why not give him a chance?
Yeah, if I can interject for just a second, that is what I entirely agree with Chandler on. And he is currently off taking a phone call, so he can't hear me agree with him. And let's keep it that way.
He'll have to hear that. He'll get that nice little pleasure in like a week or something.
Anyway, what he's completely right on is the fact that we have no idea if he can build a program.
Yeah,
and
sure.
That's the situation he's in right now. He inherited, he didn't inherit much when he got to Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, having to build, and he didn't do a good job. He was able to salvage what someone else mismanaged at USC.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes to LSU, and he's given a whole lot. I think that one of the differences is that he's going to still have a whole lot when it comes to the recruiting field that LSU brings in.
Mm-hmm.
But this is right now when we see, can he actually build a team? I mean, he only lasted 3 years at Ole Miss. This is year 3 at LSU.
Yeah, Orgeron reminds me a lot of Will Muschamp in that
you can't understand what they're saying.
Yeah, no, both of them just scream nonstop.
It's just profanity.
Orgeron is somehow more likable than Muschamp, but both of them clearly got jobs that they weren't ready to take. Both of them are apparently really good recruiters, and they're both in kind of a similar situation now, in which they're given a second chance to build new programs, kind of coming out of bad times. So we'll see. Do I think that Orgeron is going to take LSU to the heights that Saban and Les Miles did? I don't think so. Again, he hasn't shown us that he can, but this is just his second real head coaching gig. So let's see what he can do with it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he has learned what he needed to learn. Maybe this is an opportunity here This is Roe. Your Tennessee comparison is great in that LSU fans, the best thing they can do right now is temper expectations for this season and temper expectations going into like next year. You know, get yourself. You got to get your mind right. You got to realize that
your mind right. Might want to go ahead and go on that fishing trip this fall that you've been
right.
plan. You know, go visit
every weekend.
Go visit the corn dog shed a bunch. Whatever you get.
Already thrown out there. No, but that's what it is. Like, it's going to take a lot of work to get you back to where you were, obviously under Saban, and then obviously under Miles, at least for the first several seasons that Les Miles was there. And that's what a lot of my friends who are LSU fans always said was, well, Les Miles did great with Saban recruits and then never could seem to really develop his own recruits well enough to be on top of things. And that's what the expectation is there. Like, if Texas A&M is paying Jimbo Fisher stupid money to take the leap into putting us in national prominence, LSU's in the situation where it's like win now. Like, A&M's trying to play this like medium to long game of, all right, like, you're the guy we think who can take us from where we are, and then quickly. That's why they signed him a 10-year contract. Over the time you're here, get us to national prominence. LSU is not that patient. LSU is not going to think that way. So
we should, but they won't.
Right. Exactly. It is. Yeah, it's nasty. I'll say this. I think that just seeing how well he navigated the USC thing, seeing how well he navigated not being given the USC job when there were a lot of fans who thought that they should go ahead and take the interim tag off and make him the head coach after he, salvaged. I mean, he went 6-2 with that team after Kiffin was bounced.
Left at the airport.
Left.
I mean, clearly USC made the right choice in hiring Steve Sarkisian.
They've been a great choice for that guy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We're gonna turn this entirely into just a podcast about like coaching failures and.
Well, all right. So on that note, on the Ole Miss or on the coaching failures or whatever, right? Sure. So Ed Orgeron, interesting little tidbit about Ed O. Mm-hmm. Everywhere he's been since 1998, he's been a part of or coming up after some sort of serious scandal or consequence, something. So he goes to USC, right? He's there from 98 to 2004. There was this whole thing in the middle of that. He was the assistant head coach. This whole Reggie Bush thing that happened, if you recall. Something about Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush and L.A. and money. I don't remember exactly. From there, he goes to Ole Miss and he takes over David Cutcliffe's staff or whatever. And he doesn't. There's not a lot of controversy there, but he also is part of a rebuilding process.
There was a ton of controversy there.
Yeah, and he gives.
I mean, like his first week on campus, he had an assistant coach passed out in a subway.
Yes. From there, from Ole Miss, he gets fired from Ole Miss. Then he goes to the Saints in 2008. There is Bountygate in 2008 that we all remember this. That's part of that. From there, he goes to the Lane Kiffin regime at Tennessee that lasted all.
He got a Super Bowl ring out of that, so I don't know.
Sure did.
I don't see any problems.
Sure did, bud.
He did. He starts the rebuild process at Tennessee. Then he goes to USC again and helps that rebuild. But he's also part of the reason why they have to rebuild. And then he's at LSU. So I don't know what happens to this guy after LSU. Who knows? But everywhere he goes, there's something that's being rebuilt or reconstructed or something.
Which begs the question: is Ed Orgeron the Dark Lord of the Sith?
He might be. He might really be.
He's certainly an enigma. He's an absolute enigma.
He's a good assistant coach. I mean, he coaches defensive line very well. He recruits very well. He's not a guy that's fit to run a program. He's just not.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know that. We haven't actually seen it yet, you know? We just haven't. And that's the only thing is, yeah, this year's going to suck. It just is. There's too much working against it. I mean, you could put Bill Belichick just on this team right here, and he's not really going to salvage this season. You know, there's too much going against it.
But say, I don't think the talent is necessarily that bad. I mean, I think that with the inexperience, like I said, the inexperience in the schedule.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, reasonably you could see him beating Ole Miss and Florida and obviously Louisiana Tech. I mean, it wouldn't be difficult to imagine them beating Mississippi State or Arkansas. But at the same time, if those first 6 games, if there's an injury or if something doesn't go right, I mean, that's where I think it could get squirrely, and that's where I think that Coach O's not really fit to kind of salvage something like that. Because Coach O, when things start going bad, you know, he that fiery, angry at the world Cajun comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Coach O rips his shirt off.
But
exactly.
That's the whole thing that I was trying to say a few minutes ago is that like we haven't seen that in a while. Like we haven't if the growth is true, you know, then maybe he is a completely different person than he was 10 years ago when he was at Ole Miss. You know, we don't know quite yet. You know, whether, and that's why I'm thinking this season's a wash. The season's a wash. And then if there's, you know, anything that could be done, you know, next year's absolutely what will define exactly who he is as a coach. That's my opinion, but
and my question continues to come to this is, do you think that because really this conversation is not so much about Ed Orgeron as it is about Joe Oliva, the athletics director.
Mm-hmm.
And if they come out and say they roll a 6-6 or worse, which I don't know is likely, but it's definitely possible. Say that happens. Does Joe Oliva survive? And if Joe Oliva survives, does Ed Orgeron survive that?
Well, here's a question I got to ask you to follow up on that. You said if they roll a 6-6, is that on like a D6 die or is this a D20? Because that really defines how good of a roll that actually is. Because if it's a D6 die and they roll a 6-6, that's phenomenal. That's
so good.
You ain't topping that.
Nerds.
I don't know. All I'm saying is that it's not unreasonable looking at the assistant coaches under Ed Orgeron who are now NCAA head coaches or have been head coaches to think that he's the next Nick Saban as far as coaching tree goes. Thanks again for listening to this specific individual team preview. If you want more content like this, be sure to subscribe to Running Out the Clock so you don't miss any more of our SEC previews leading up to this season. You can find the full episode that this comes from by searching for our 2018 SEC Preview full episodes. And you'll want to listen to that because we give a verdict at the end of whether or not we feel like the team mentioned will do better, worse, or stay the same. For Running Out the Clock, I'm your friend Joseph Craven. Thanks for listening.